this lady was allowed in before the FBI. It's a weird situation. Now, any sort of mention of ISIS in 2025 is already bound to raise some alarm bells, especially considering that the Islamic State is nowhere near its point of prominence. And even when it was, it still obviously was, you know. Okay, now let's move on to FBI and the New Orleans attack. There is more evidence or more information coming out, and also some news about the Tesla Vegas bombing as well. Okay, the full presser where they release parts of his manifesto is in here as well. But let's start with the New Orleans attacker first. FBI says that he acted alone, most likely acted alone.
New Orleans, the latest from there. The FBI now says the driver who killed 14 people and injured dozens more on.
Do you think that if migrants got the same rights that American workers had, they would allow them in? We know that the American empire relies on global South and immigrants for low wages. How do we allow immigrants to come in while allowing them the same labor protections we have? I mean, it's pretty simple. If the H-1B visa structure worked in the way that they claimed it worked, which is fulfilling certain roles in the labor pool that we literally do not have people to fulfill, then yeah, that would still be an argument that people can make. It's also just incredibly nihilistic to assume that, like, I mean, there is truth to the attitude where people are like, oh, we can't have healthcare, for example, because we constantly have migrants coming into the country and they can't use our healthcare. If we had healthcare, then then immigration would even increase. And it's like people will come in to steal our healthcare. People already lie and claim that the American welfare state is bountiful and that undocumented migrants take advantage of it all the time, even though the American welfare structure is not bountiful at all. We barely have any social safety nets.
On New Year's Day, acted alone. And it says there's new evidence that 42-year-old Army veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar was in.
Do you think that H-1B workers should make a little less than American workers? No, I don't. I don't think that at all. Why would I think that? They're doing the same job. They should work the same hours and get paid the same. It's the same job. Why would I think that? I like this argument, though. He's like, come on, just a little bit. Just a little bit. Come on. Sorry, it was just a question. No, I know. I'm not treating you as a hostile entity. I just think it's funny and maybe a little cute the way you asked that question. Come on, just a little bit. What's the difference? Come on. As a treat, as a treat.
Inspired by. There's also a military connection with the driver of the Cybertruck that exploded outside a Trump hotel in Las Vegas just hours later. But authorities say there's quote, no definitive link between the men responsible for the attacks. We have correspondents covering every angle of this. A CBS Saturday Morning co-host and former First Lady of New Orleans, Michelle Miller, is in the French Quarter. Michelle, good morning.
Good morning to you. Well, the Big Izzy certainly knows how to bounce back after a tragedy. He's done it certainly more times than we can count. The world-famous party district known as Bourbon Street reopened to the public on yesterday, and it was a bustling, joyous experience for so many people coming to enjoy the city, everything it has to offer, although it was under a ton of security. Now, the barriers were up. They were meant to stop vehicles from getting onto Bourbon Street, something that officials say could have prevented the from getting onto the street in the first place. Hundreds of police officers roam this area, and just about a mile away from here, thousands of college football fans poured into the Superdome for the Sugar Bowl that was delayed by a day. Inside the dome, fans observed a moment of silence for the victims ahead of kickoff. We were there, and you could feel the real sense of community among those attending. An energetic jubilation helped heal in the wake of tragedy and a return to normalcy. Omar Villafranca has the latest on the investigation. He's right down below on Bourbon Street. Omar, good morning.
Good morning. The FBI received more than 400 tips, but they still want to talk to people who knew the suspect. Now, the crime scene here on Bourbon Street has been cleared, but the investigation is far from over. The FBI now says the perpetrator of the ISIS-inspired attack on Bourbon Street likely acted alone, despite earlier reports he may have had help.
This was an act of terrorism. It was premeditated and an evil act.
According to federal investigators, Shamsuddin Jabbar rented the Ford F-150 Lightning used in the attack via the Turo app in Houston, Texas on December 30th. He then drove it to New Orleans on New Year's Eve. The FBI says,
Did you just send me an epochtimes.com article? New York judge orders Trump sentencing, indicates he won. What is happening in 2025? I think 2025 is the year that we just go insane. How about that? Let's do it. Let's just latch on to as many conspiracy theories as possible. Let's latch on to CIA-backed psychopathic cults that believe, and their media operations like Epoch Times that work to break the brains of your parents online. Let's do it. Let's go all in, baby.
he posted 5 videos to social media in the hours before the murders, including one claiming that he had joined ISIS prior to the summer.
Jabbar explains he originally planned to harm his family and friends, but was concerned the news headlines would not focus on the, quote, war between the believers and the disbelievers, end quote.
The FBI released these new surveillance images showing in coolers that they say the killer planted in the French Quarter shortly before the attack. On Thursday, President Biden revealed Jabbar also had a remote detonator for the planted IEDs. Just after 3 a.m. New Year's Day, Jabbar, a U.S. Army veteran who law enforcement sources say was armed with an AR-15 style weapon and a handgun, began his rampage.
I'm devastated, honestly. I'm shocked.
Jabbar's younger brother, Abdur Rahim, who requested that we hide his face, says Shamsuddin had recently gone through an expensive divorce and their
What's miscegenation? Is that misogyny? Miscegenation is race mixing.
father had suffered a stroke in 2023. He noticed his brother becoming more outwardly religious, but said he saw nothing to suggest Jabbar was being radicalized.
He's been a practicing Muslim since he was a kid and everything, and
As someone who isn't conspiracy brain, this is getting more and more sus. Yeah. It's also getting like it's giving Israel. I'm not gonna lie, because apparently they went to his house and basically brought in a whole bunch of random people, okay, to basically be like, hey, just so you know, like just so you know, we're gonna do a, like, this lady was allowed in before the FBI. It's a weird situation. Now, any sort of mention of ISIS in 2025 is already bound to raise some alarm bells, especially considering that the Islamic State is nowhere near its point of prominence, and even when it was, it still obviously was, let's just say it's suspicious that ISIS almost always, with the exception of some lone wolf attacks, is constantly working against America's foreign adversaries, But having said that, since Donald Trump bravely destroyed ISIS, it also seems odd that they would come back in a big way like this. ISIS itself hasn't also, I don't think, as far as I understand, I don't think that they have, taken ownership over this attack either. So it could be a case of like some random nut job saying like, no, I actually learned everything from ISIS. I wanted to be ISIS, but even the media reporting on the matter shows that like he, one, seemingly was working alone, and two, that in recorded videos, he basically was like, I have 2 options here: murdering my entire family and joining ISIS. And I decided I'm joining ISIS now. So at least that's what they have reported in the media. That's what CNN has reported. That's what the FBI has revealed. But nonetheless, regardless of some of the glaringly obvious red flags here, I am not of the mindset that this is entirely an op or something, like a psyop to reinstate Islamophobia in the United States of America. Like, I don't know. I think it can be just a situation that people will take advantage of to do that if they want to.
I think he took a step away from the religion at some point in his life, and then he came back into it.
Yeah, so his brother is the only person, it seems, that claims that Shamsuddin was Muslim. Even the New York Times reporting, and also our own reporting here, talking to Shamsuddin's niece yesterday, many people in his family, other members of his family, have said that he was not Muslim, that he was raised Christian. The New York Times actively reported that he was raised Christian and became and potentially converted to Islam a couple years ago. No, this is not her father. This person, I think, is the half brother. You still haven't gotten in trouble for that by the FBI? Why would I get in trouble for that?
And let me give you some good officers who were hurt while exchanging gunfire with the suspect. They are now out of the hospital. Here in the French Quarter, it's starting to look and sound like the old Bourbon Street. And Michelle, slowly, it's starting to feel like the old Bourbon Street.
Welcome back. The half-brother of the New Orleans terror suspect says radicalization is what fueled his brother's actions. Brooke Taylor is joining us live from Houston. And Brooke, I understand you spoke to the half-brother. What was your takeaway from your conversation with him?
I did, and he was completely shocked by all this. We spoke at his childhood home. Now, one of the things that the FBI said was that on the way to New Orleans, Jabbar posted on his Facebook page saying that he was inspired by ISIS, as we know, and that at first he was going to actually target his own family and friends. So that's what I wanted to ask, his own brother, how it felt hearing that.
I'm gonna pee.
And he stood back and he said it was so chilling to hear that, just shocking and heartbreaking. I want to show you this picture here of the Jabbar family from the early years when the boys were just kids. His brother Abdur Jabbar is an adult now. He gave us these photos. He says they're 18 years apart and the family did not see any red flags. Shamsuddin Jabbar grew up in Beaumont, Texas, and went to Central High School. From 2007 to 2015, he joined the Army as a human resource specialist and information technology specialist. Then he had a quick real estate career and most recently working in IT again. Now, he says later in life, Jabbar seemed lost and on a, quote, path to self-discovery. He went through at least 2 divorces, had 3 kids, and according to court filings, was having massive money struggles. His brother says that he grew up Muslim, but he says Jabbar stepped away from his faith in the 20s. He said that decision to join the Army was just a way to get on the right path and really figure out his career. Now, he didn't want to show his face for his own safety reasons, but he spoke to us. He says his brother was trying to find a sense of purpose in his life, and as you mentioned, blames radicalization for this attack.
I think so, yeah. I mean, from starting from the military and then after the military, after his divorces, I'm sure he was looking for some type of guidance to help, in his life, something to give him the right answers. This would be the only indication that I have that there was some radicalization that came into play, because like I said, outside of this, nothing else raised any type of alarms,
And investigators right now trying to identify that path, how we went from Army vet to ISIS supporter, and sources just told us that they confirmed there was bomb-making materials in his home here, but they wouldn't elaborate yet on exactly what those materials are, Bill.
And that's got to be tough for the family to hear that he initially wanted to kill them, but felt it wouldn't generate enough headlines to do so. Brooke Taylor, great job getting that interview live for us in Houston this morning.
And Omar, as I understand it, there is a vigil scheduled for the public here in the French Quarter on Saturday to mourn the loss of those who died. Of course, the loved ones of the 14 people killed in the attack are also mourning their losses. We have learned the identities of those 10 victims, or at least 10 of the victims. They range in age from 18 to 63 years old.
The niece said that the stepfather was Muslim and that's how the perp became Muslim in his youth. No, she said that he was raised Christian by her mother and was estranged from his father, who I believe was Muslim. She said that the family was predominantly Christian, but because of their names, they regularly were targeted as though they were Muslim. Stepfather was Muslim. That's the reason. Is there any understanding of the motive yet? Yeah, the person's father was Muslim. He was raised Catholic. Those options make no sense for a man in a corner. Those two things have zero connection for a man who thinks he has nothing left. One is a complete loss of anything he has left with his own hands. The other is randomly joining a Fed operation which only connects with the racist logic he's Muslim. I mean, it doesn't matter. At a certain point, everyone understands that he converted to Islam, okay? That part is correct. And not only that, but also he did become more and more insane. Like at a certain point, he lost his dang mind, okay? It's still interesting to track this journey and understand the point of radicalization and what took place, because you know, part of the reason for why it's important to understand it is because there are people out there who are, you know, tying this back to like regular old Islamophobia, even though there is a surprisingly lower number of people doing that. I think most of the people that are doing that are pro-Israel people in general that have used this as an opportunity. Don't ever let a crisis go to waste, to basically reassert the position that like this guy is basically the same as all of the pro-Hamas Iranian-backed protest movements on college campuses and the like.
Tony DeCopel brings us the stories of some of their families.
Also, I have a question for you guys. This is the worst question to ask. I have isopropyl rubbing alcohol. I have merthiolate, which is benzalkonium chloride, 0.13%. And I have povidone iodine swab sticks. Now, why do I have all these? Because I want to clean the remainder of Kaya's scar. Not that she has any issues or anything like that, but I don't know what the best one is to use. Quit doing news slice of life stuff is like this is better. Bro has bomb making material at home. The iodine swab sticks is better. Soap and water? Wait, really? I'm a chemist. Benzalkonium will be the safest. Iodine will be the most effective. Usually has the least reactivity with skin and is commonly used in human surgery. I'm a doctor. I don't think there are there are no open wounds, but I just want to like fix. I just want to clean up. Just make sure to clean up what is remaining of the area. So while this story continues, I'm going to do that in the background.
She was a wonderful girl. She was 27 years old. She smiled all the time. She liked to help other people.
Martha Patricia Perez's daughter, Nicole Perez, managed Kimmy's Deli just outside New Orleans and was a loving mother to her 4-year-old son.
She had a lot of dreams. She had a lot of dreams. She can't do it now. She's going because the terrorists killed my daughter.
Reggie Hunter from Baton Rouge was 37, a warehouse manager and father of 2. His youngest, still just a toddler. And his cousin, Sherelle Robinson Jackson, says he was someone who liked to laugh.
Made everybody laugh at the family. A great dad.
Nikira Cheyenne Dido had recently graduated high school in Mississippi. Just 18 years old, she had dreams of becoming a nurse. And another 18-year-old, Kareem Badawi, a freshman engineering student at the University of Alabama, after high school not all that far away from Bourbon Street in Baton Rouge. Martin Besh, meanwhile, known by his nickname Tiger, played wide receiver on the Princeton University football team. A ferocious competitor, his head coach said, with endless energy.
His laugh was contagious.
Zach Colgan remembers his cousin Matthew Tenedorio as a goofball who at 25 simply wanted to make people laugh.
This shouldn't be happening to our nation.
14 different people drawn together by, of all things, celebration. Now 14 different families united in grief. For CBS Mornings, I'm Tony DeCopel in New Orleans.
Earlier today, I spoke with Dr. Jeffrey Elder at the University Medical Center here in New Orleans. It's a Trauma 1 hospital very close to here. He specializes in emergency medicine. He had been on work all day long, went back home, was then called back in after the attack.
Were most of the injuries from the vehicle itself, or were there gunshots as well?
Yeah, so it was interesting because when you talk about injuries, you think of a blunt mechanism like a car crash, or penetrating trauma like a knife wound or a gunshot wound, and really here we had both. Most of our patients were unfortunately suffering blunt trauma, so they'd been hit by the vehicle and had injuries to the abdomen, the chest, the head, and a lot of broken bones. We had a few patients, really the minority, that had gunshot wounds that were here.
This hospital is about 10 years old. It's really beautiful. Dr. Elder was also saying that this was the largest number of sick critical trauma patients that they've ever seen in such a short period of time. I met earlier today at that hospital with Pittsburgh area native Jeremy Sensky. Jeremy uses a specialized wheelchair. He was in New Orleans on vacation. He uses the wheelchair because he was in a car accident in 1999. He's paralyzed. I spoke to him. He was on Bourbon Street. He was struck directly by the truck in his legs in the wheelchair. He survived miraculously. I spoke to him earlier.
I think I got hit and my body was just thrown onto the ground, and I just, for like a second, I don't remember that moment, but as soon as I hit the ground, I think I came right back awake. The first thing I remember when I hit the ground were the gunshots, and as soon as I heard the gunshots, I was thinking in my head that I would hope I was clear from the gunshots, and I thought that's kind of why I was on the ground. In my head, I thought, well, maybe I'm on the ground because of the people are shooting, and I was on the ground to get away from it.
So did you heard shots? Did you see anything around you?
No, I didn't see anything. While I was hearing the shots, I was still like disoriented, and the whole time I was like pretty messed up. I really didn't know what was going on, and I was just glad that I didn't get shot. Like, I'm thinking the gunshots, I'm laying on the ground, I should be safe. And then my leg was messed up. I kept messing with my leg. I'm like trying to figure out what's wrong with my leg, and I saw this stuff around me, which was parts of my wheelchair. So I started scraping it, trying to find my phone. I really couldn't tell what was what, so I tried to get my phone. I wanted to use the phone. I was going to call my wife and tell her I was alive.
Your leg, you were you were bleeding.
I think that I was bleeding, but it was my leg was just broke, like in a bunch of different pieces.
There's a photograph taken from overhead where the truck is, and you're on the ground.
Yeah, the truck was to my right.
So did you heard shots? Did you see anything around you?
No, I didn't see anything. And I was screaming, help, 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 help. And finally a guy came over and said, listen, you're lucky to be alive. He said, many people aren't as lucky as you.
I heard that somebody put a mark on your forehead indicating you were alive.
Somebody came over and they put the number, a yellow X. And I asked, what does that mean? And they didn't tell me. But later on I found what it meant, because whenever they care, what they did is, after a while, I'm not sure how long it was, the time was like forever. I mean, I felt like I was there forever. I was laying on my back, and there was a guy named Patrick. He was one of the cops that was dressed up in like the army fatigue color. And eventually he just stayed with me. After I told me I couldn't walk and I was paralyzed, he stayed with me. And I asked him what had happened. He said, we don't know, we're still trying to figure it out. And I said, was it just a drunk driver or something? Did someone blow up something? Because I didn't know. I still hadn't put two and two together that the truck had done anything really. And even though I had seen the truck, I never even thought that that's what had happened, because I was so out of it.
When did you learn that it was this person in a terror attack?
Today. They were talking about it, something about someone shooting a cop or something. I heard someone got shot by a cop, but no one called it a terror attack. And I kept asking people, like the nurses and doctors that were with me that night, and no one said it was a terror attack. And today I found out that it was a terror attack.
Does it make you angry?
Me personally, I'm going to have a hard time probably coming back to Bourbon Street for a while. But I mean, I might. But I'm not. My whole thing was, you should feel safe there. And hopefully, there was definitely things that were wrong. They didn't put up the stupid thing at the end of the road that I had to drive over my wheelchair. That's supposed to stop the cars. Wasn't up. So that was definitely a problem. Like, that thing that was supposed to be up was down. I drove over it. I had to get pushed over it, but it was only this tall. Like, 5 inches tall. Something like
Yeah, they
that.
said it needed to be repaired or something.
Yeah, well, they should have repaired it before New Year's Eve.
Is there anything else you want people to know? I don't want to take up too much of your
I
time.
don't, I'm just happy to be alive, man. I don't want people to be afraid to go out and do things. I really don't. I mean, this could happen anytime, anywhere, but what are you going to do? Stop living your life?
All right, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kevin McMahill. I'm the sheriff for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Over the last couple of days, since the bombing and death of the individual inside of the Tesla at Trump Towers, had a number of priorities that we've been trying to accomplish over those days. The first one of those priorities was to confirm that there's no further threat. I think we've completed that. The second was to positively identify the suspect. We've also done that today. I can confirm that that is Matthew Livelsberger. We also wanted to confirm that there were no other actors involved in this incident. I believe we've done that, and you'll hear much more about that as we move forward today. We've also today, I'm going to be able to share with you some of what we believe to be his plans and motives as to why he conducted this attack. Now, before we go on, I want to just address a couple of things before we get too far along here. I want you to know that we're very well aware of a podcast that is going around today and the contents of the letter in that podcast. And I just want you to understand that since we've been conducting these press conferences, I have only given you information that we have verified and